This is Eve Albrecht. This is the second little video that goes with the first one. I just wanted to explain a little bit about our procedure to actually getting our image onto the canvas, or actually preferable the panel. So the first video we talked about mixing colors. So we mixed lots of colors with we mixed lots of paint, I should say, lots of flesh tones with three colors. So yellow ochre, red, and black, and using white to make gray tones to really tone down all of our colors to get closer to what we might be using for our portrait. So now your paint, hopefully, is nice and wet still, maybe in your Masterson palette seal or Tupperware or something. And I would definitely keep that in the refrigerator. I'm going to put all of mine in the refrigerator for our class. And I'm going to show you now what we do for our next step. All right, so when I come to class, I'm going to have 3 images for each person. So the first one will be this one. Hopefully you can see it. And it's not too shiny, but your image is going to be in a plastic folder, so you can touch on the image with the paint to make sure that the color is the right shade and value. I have this little drawing board here. You can use Gator board like I mentioned before, or whatever you have at home. Usually there are easels that will be able to hold this kind of board. I generally prefer standing while I paint, but you can sit and you can lower the easels. But a board is really important. Also to have tape, your blue tape, to tape up the photographs of each photograph. So this first photograph is the normal photograph, and that's generally what we'll be using to really look closer and get a closer image. So we'll have this one, which is the finished photo, the actual photo that we're going to be copying. We're also going to be having another image, and this is what I call a posterized version. You might not be able to see it so well, but there are several different layers to the darks, and it actually shows you, if you can't see it here and you don't notice it, it shows you what artists usually see if they squint their eyes. So we talked earlier about squinting the eyes to see value. So if you look here and you're squinting your eyes, you see that it's definitely very dark. I mean, you can see that without squinting your eyes. But if you squint down, you can see that here is darker than here, but it's lighter than here. So squinting shows you value, so lights or darks. And you need to know that, and you need to be able to show that on your painting so the image looks round. It has a rounded form, okay? So if you can see this right here, and we'll talk closely about this in our class, this is just a basic overview. You see that right here on the front of the face, very light, very bright. Here, it's already changing color because that is called a halftone. Halftones are shifts in value, so it's a different value. It's a little bit darker, and it actually shows a plane change. Okay, so imagine an orange is really round, and as it goes around away from the light, it gets darker and darker and darker. But in the area that's still in the light, that's called a halftone. That's what I refer to it as a halftone. And then it starts to get a little bit darker, and you see here, it's not super dark, but it's much darker than over here. This starts to get into the darker areas, and you see there's at one point, the darkest part is right next to the ear. And this is in this photo. So I'll be giving you a normal photograph, the photograph with the posterized version to actually help your eyes see what I'm trying to explain about halftones. And then I'm going to put this one down here. And this is the black and white version of the posterized version. And we're going to be using that to put our image down on the painting or on the toned canvas. All right? And I'll show you how to do that in a minute. So If you have any Liquitex, really, it can be really cheap, it doesn't matter, acrylic paint, and you have a gray tone, it's probably going to be, this one says neutral gray number 5, totally adequate to put a nice base layer on your panel. And I prefer panels because it's a harder surface and it's going to be easier for you to trace on. And the reason why we're tracing the photograph is because this is not about how to draw a painting, it's about, or draw a portrait, it's about how to mix flesh tones and how to apply them. So 2 totally different concepts in a 2-day workshop. We don't want to have to worry about likeness and getting the measurements correctly. That's a whole nother can of worms. So any kind of gray tone that you have, similar to actually of the Masterson palette, I want you to use that and put it over your white board, okay? The boards I said to get were 11 by 14. So you just take this, use a bigger brush. I showed you the brush in the earlier one, at least a 1 inch, nice and soft. Just make a nice flat surface so you can't see any, if you have a textured board, it's probably better to get a soft board. This is a gesso board, but you can get anything that's just not too much tooth so you don't see all the holes in it, and at least cover it up so you don't really see it, because we want a nice neutral background. If you don't have gray and you don't want to go out and buy it, you can use white and black and mix your own medium gray. That would be, you've already figured that out if you've done the color mixing. So, pretty flexible with that. Okay, so the other product that we need to get is Seural transfer paper. It's right here. They come in packets sometimes. If you have some, bring it, great. Any light color will do. It could be white, it can be, anything that doesn't blend into gray. So white, yellow, red, I think those are the colors they come in. Any of those, please bring a sheet. You're not going to need that big of a sheet. So this is the Seural transfer paper. I like to use it for many different things. It's just very white. One side has the chalky side. This is used by quilters, I believe. And but I found that it's been very helpful to transfer, because when I teach painting, I don't want to have to worry about if the drawing skills aren't there. I'm really talking about, how to get great brush strokes and mix the right colors and all that kind of stuff. So I've had a lot of great success with my students using this. Okay, so the supplies that we will need is the Seural paper, definitely some tape. We've got our black and white copy, and we have our already grayed and dried gesso board or panel, whatever you want to call it. Also to note, if you are pre-preparing this a few days ahead and you're using oils, you can use oils if you use a lot of mineral spirits and make sure it's dry by Saturday morning. So it will maybe sit out in the sun, but definitely only mineral spirits in the paint. So it is an option to use an oil primed canvas and to prime the canvas in oil, but it has to be totally dry by I guess 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock on Saturday. Okay, so we've got our photocopy here. I'm going to show you just a few little bits of information of how to place a portrait reference onto a canvas. There's many different ways we can do it. I've messed up many times, so I think it's kind of helpful just to tell you in advance before that might happen as well. So we've got our portrait here, and it can go anywhere. I mean, this is 8 by 10, this is 11 by 14. So it can go many places. It could go here, it can go over here, it can go down here, and it can be centered. But what's really important is to make sure that it looks good when it's framed, because I think these are going to look really nice. I've had a lot of my students produce amazing paintings, and they're either being sold or actually in lots of shows. So you want to make sure that they're on the canvas and it looks good. So the best way to do it is to make sure that the center of interest, what's most important, is right in front of her face. The one reason why we know it's important is one, well, she's pretty, right? Two, it's the light. And three, it's the lightest light against the darkest dark. That's right here, center of interest. All right, same with, center of interest is very important. You always need to take that in consideration as opposed to just plopping it onto the canvas. So we want to make sure that if we're going to frame it, we need at least 1/4 of an inch here. Okay, so if we were to frame it here, and this, I've got this centered right here, there's a whole lot of empty space here. We don't want to do that. We've made that mistake before. So we want to move it up so that, let's say, you can't really see it because it's a lost edge here. This is the edge. And then if this is where the canvas is, there's about, a thumb's width apart right here. Maybe we could do it maybe a touch lower. We don't want to do it too low. We just want to have a nice edge here so that we have some space from the top, but not too much. It's a call that you have to make. So because this is the center of interest, we want to make sure that there's more space in front of it here and less space over here because this isn't as interesting. So trying to find that space on your canvas is really important. Where do we want it to be? Okay. And down here, we can just kind of carry it out and, we can use lost edges there. It doesn't have to be, everything drawn perfectly, almost like a silhouette. So it's your choice again. All right, so with that being said, I'm going to show you how to transfer. So we're going to pretend that this is the gray tone panel, all right? And I don't have one ready. I can't take one out of the oven. So this is what it's going to be, and we're going to first make sure that we've got it in the place that we want it to be, because this really isn't the canvas. I could put it anywhere, but I am still going to try and make it look right. So I'm going to put it on here. Let's pretend that the canvas stops there, or the panel stops there. This is kind of coming up a little bit. Not good. If there's a lot of detail in a certain area, we really need to tape this down. And you can do this transfer stuff. You can do this on for any kind of medium. Now I just realized I taped it onto the wrong thing. So I'm going to take it off of here after I made sure I had all the tape on it. Let's put this back. So what I want to do is make sure that the white Seural paper is taped down properly. I'm going to start on one side, but the first thing I'm going to do is make sure that it's actually put down properly. I just can't find my pen now. I'm going to make sure my pen works. Okay. So the first thing to do is I'm going to say, I'm going to put a check. And if I see the check on the other side, which I do, don't I? Yeah. That means the white chalky side is facing down onto the panel. Okay. So since I know that's there, I'm going to then make sure that the Seural paper is nice and taut so it's not moving. If this moves, and it's complicated in a very sensitive area like, I don't know, the eye or the nose or the mouth, very important things, it's going to shift and move. All right, so now we're going to take this, photograph the black and white copy, because that's the cheapest and easiest thing to do. So we're going to take it and we're going to place it where we want it on the canvas. So I'm going to just move it up here, like I'm pretending that the white area is the actual panel. All right, so I'm going to make sure there's a little bit of space here, more space over here. I'm going to tape it down, make sure there's no bubbles or anything into it, underneath it. All right, so this was the pen that I used. The reason why I use the posterized version is because I think for beginners or people who haven't done this before, it just really helps for you to see the different areas, the different shapes that are part of the different values of the face. Okay, so the next thing for us to do is just draw it. So I'm using a colored pencil or a colored pen because I already had pencil on here. You can use a pencil. You can use the back of a brush or something pointy, but sometimes I forget what I have done and what I haven't done. And since this is kind of our throwaway copy, I would suggest using a pencil or a pen. I'm using this in blue just because I want you to see what I'm doing. And it's pretty easy. It's just very simple tracing right over the face. So now, hopefully we've sped this up so you can see what I did really quickly. And then there's certain areas right around here. You know, I'm looking here at the color copy, and I definitely want to get in a bit of the hair, but it's a little, there's some lost edges, so we're not so worried about that. But I definitely want to capture this whole light area here. I also want to know that right back here, it's a little bit darker. Very, very dark right back there. And this area does have a bit of shadow. So basically these are notes that you're telling yourself. So, I think this is kind of all I want to do. Oh, I forgot this one here. So this is why it's good to have your colored, either a pencil or a pen, as opposed to just drawing it, you know, with the back of a brush or something like that. So I'm trying to think, all right, now is this enough information? I don't want too much information. I think I might want to say right here, there is a definite lighter value right here, okay? I definitely see this is a lighter value here. That's going to be the top part of her eye. So if you haven't taken any drawing, that is going to be where the light is hitting it, and this is where the light is hitting it, and this over here is the light receding, so it's going to be darker. In fact, on here you can see, or actually right here, you see that in the color version of it. All right, so what else? I think I kind of like this whole area here. So the light part of the cheek is all right here. And this right here is the dark of the nose. I might just put like a little note right there. All right, so this looks a little weird, I know, but, and it's a lot of information. That's why we keep this, and we keep all of these pictures right here when we're painting. So when I paint, I have my references right next to me. They're not down here by my feet, 2 feet up higher. They're right next to what I'm painting. And when it's a really important painting, I sometimes put my paint right here. I'll move everything over. I'll get a longer board. So, you know, mixing, definitely color mixing. I'll have it down here, get the colors right. And then, you know, when I'm getting closer to the finished painting, I will have actually the paint vertical next to my canvas. So it just helps to, you know, it's faster, and it really helps keep the light on the paint and on the painting at the same time, and it will help with accuracy. All right, so coming back to here, I think we've got everything that we needed. Let's see. I'm not taking anything off because there have been times when I have forgotten. And I removed it, and guess what? I missed, I don't know, the nose or something like that. Actually, I hope I did get the nose. Ah, cool. All right, so then we take it off. We first look, before I take anything up here off, I first look slowly up like that. I see that I like the way it looks. So if I had missed the nose or the eye, and believe me, I have, then I will redo it. So I think you can see from the camera coming down that I have all this information. And you know what? That's a lot of information. But I think that's okay. For us, we will know that this area here, when you compare, you're like, what is this? You know, it really doesn't make any sense until you put this by it, or you take this version and put it next. You're like, oh, that's this here. And you even see an extra highlight there. It's all about showing you where these colors go. Okay, here it looks nice and simple. But when you put all these lines in, it looks a little complicated. So and it's up to you. You can erase some of the lines if it's too much. But I think it's almost like a color by numbers. It helps you to know where the different colors are. And that this color here, so this is the comparative color here. Put it over here. So this color here is going to be lighter and warmer than right here. So when you're mixing your paints, you're going to first start with the darks, and we have our color mixtures and everything, but we're going to use a separate piece of paper, so a separate little board, and we are going to mix some extra colors just to make sure that we're starting with the darks first, and then we're going to get all the dark stuff done, all of the dark side of the face and the hair and the background. We're going to get that done first, and then we're going to slowly move into the lights. So that's the procedure that we're going to do. And I think I have a copy. All right. So I do have a copy of, it's not this painting, but it's another one. I don't think I have it up here. But basically, that's what we're going to be doing. Background, hair, darks of the face, wherever we find it. This had a lot more darks in it than this does. And it's going to be very basic, very simple. And then we're going to clean the palette off, get all those darks off, and we're going to work in the light. So that's our procedure. Hopefully you understand it, and when we get in class, we'll all do this together. It's your option to mix your paints first, mix them with me. And of course, we're going to have to do the tracing together because I will have the copies, but you can already have your gray ground down on your canvas board. All right, thank you and good luck. And if you have any questions, you can email me. Have a great day.